And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him with a whirlwind, with chariots, and with horsemen, and with many ships. And he shall enter into the countries, and shall overflow and pass over.
If you know one thing about the fall of the Berlin Wall, it might be this.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Or this. Or maybe...
I've been looking for freedom.
These moments were huge in unifying Berlin and undermining the physical symbol of a divided Europe during the Cold War. But they don't top this one. The last few minutes of an otherwise uneventful press conference on November 9th, 1989.
Also Privatreisen nach dem Ausland können ohne Vorliegen von Voraussetzungen, Reiseanlässe und Verwandtschaftsverhältnisse beantragt werden. Das tritt nach meiner Kenntnis ist das sofort. Unverzüglich.
It might not look like it, but this is the moment the Berlin Wall became obsolete, completely by mistake.
We are living in the time of the end. The fast-fulfilling signs of the times declare that the coming of Christ is near at hand. The days in which we live are solemn and important. The Spirit of God is gradually but surely being withdrawn from the earth. Plagues and judgments are already falling upon the despisers of the grace of God. The calamities by land and sea, the unsettled state of society, the alarms of war are portentous. They forecast approaching events of the greatest magnitude. The agencies of evil are combining their forces and consolidating. They are strengthening for the last great crisis. Great changes are soon to take place in our world, and the final movements will be rapid ones.
In 1989, the world was in a great shifting of powers.
In Afghanistan, the Afghan Mujahideen, supported by the United States, defeated the Soviet army.
The wall came down, and we did not anticipate the total implosion of the Soviet Union.
In 1989, the collapse of the Iron Curtain, coupled with the Soviet withdrawal from Afghanistan, signaled the decline of communism and the waning days of the Cold War.
Those Mujahideen who went to Afghanistan realized, wow, we did not only defeat the Soviets who invaded Afghanistan, we destroyed the Soviet empire.
But the devastation left behind stoked a new global conflict, a conflict the U.S. was not prepared for.
We said, okay, mission accomplished, see you later, you sort it out.
Gradually, extremism grows and grows.
Today, the West is constantly engaged with violent factions around the world, aggression that events 30 years ago helped fuel.
What we did back in 1989 in Afghanistan resulted in what we saw in downtown Manhattan on 9/11.
And no one knows when this war will end.
This is not a fight that we're going to win in a decade, much less a few years. The threat of Islamist extremists is generational.
There are periods which are turning points in the history of nations and of the church. In the providence of God, when these different crises arise, the light for that time is given. If it is received, there is spiritual progress. If it is rejected, spiritual declension and shipwreck follow. The Lord in His Word has opened up the aggressive work of the gospel as it had been carried on in the past and will be in the future, even to the closing conflict when satanic agencies will make their last wonderful movement. From that word, we understand that the forces are now at work that will usher in the last great conflict between good and evil, between Satan, the prince of darkness, and Christ, the Prince of Life. But the coming triumph for the men who love and fear God is as sure as that His throne is established in the heavens.
The world, as I had known it, changed beginning in 1989 We had been supporting the Mujahideen along with our ally Saudi Arabia, to the point of supplying them with surface-to-air missiles, some of which came back to bite us later on when they fell into the hands of the Taliban.
In the book of Daniel, the 11th chapter, the 30th verse, the Bible reads, "For the ships of Chittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved, and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant." According to the scriptures, the power that forsakes the holy covenant is the papacy. And in 1989, Reagan, through an alliance with the papacy via the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, America had intelligence with the papacy in an effort to bring down communism.
Know thy enemy. In 1989, we did not know our enemy.
When Satan could not induce all the angels to revolt against the law of God, he made the earth the scene of his rebellion, and through the man of sin seeks to carry out his diabolical purpose. Through the papacy, the Roman power, the man of sin, the purpose of Satan is carried out among men. The law and the time of God are set aside. In this we see that Protestantism is giving encouragement to popery and false systems of worship, against which our fathers manfully opposed themselves, imperiling even property and life, are fostered and cherished and encouraged to extend and gain wide influence. Protestants do not search the Bibles as they should, and do not heed the warning that has been given concerning the work of the man of sin. In 1989, the United States did not know their enemy, as heard in the last clip. But the United States should know their enemies, for the Constitution was designed to keep the enemies of the United States out. However, the United States still do not know their enemy, because while we think that the enemy is Islam, the enemy is the papacy. The Constitution was designed to keep the United States from becoming a monarchy, and in 1989, when Reagan formed an alliance to bring down communism, America demonstrated that they truly did not know their enemy. The Bible tells us in the book of Ephesians, the 6th chapter and the 12th verse, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." The great enemy that the United States need to recognize is that of the enemy of souls, who comes in the form of the papacy. And by joining with the papacy, the United States has simply clasped hands with Satan and is now on the path to destruction.
After 9/11, the connections became clear. The first World Trade Center bombing in 1993, the Black Hawk chopper shot down in Mogadishu, also in 93, the embassies in 98, and the USS Cole in 2000. America was facing an intensifying threat, one from growing hate-filled terrorist networks whose history reached back to the Soviet withdrawal from Afghanistan in 1989.
The 9/11 attacks crystallize everything. This establishes clearly the new threat to the United States and indeed to the Western world and our partners in the Gulf as well.
The scriptures describe the condition of the world just before Christ's second coming. Of the men who by robbery and extortion are amassing great riches, it is written, "Ye have heaped treasures together for the last days. Behold, the hire of your laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth. And the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. Ye have lived in pleasure on the earth, and been wanton. Ye have nourished your hearts as in the day of slaughter. Ye have condemned and killed the just, and he doth not resist you." James chapter 5, verses 3 to 6. But who reads the warnings given by the fast-fulfilling signs of the times? What impression is made upon worldlings? What change is seen in their attitude? no more than was seen in the attitude of the inhabitants of the Noachian world. Absorbed in worldly business and pleasure, the antediluvians knew not until the flood came and took them all away. Matthew 24:39. They had heaven-sent warnings, but they refused to listen. And today, the world, utterly regardless of the warning voice of God, is hurrying on to eternal ruin. The world is stirred with the spirit of war. The prophecy of the 11th of Daniel has nearly reached its complete fulfillment. Soon, the scenes of trouble spoken of in the prophecies will take place.
Came in like a missile, like a fireball missile across from the New York Harbor side, I guess from the Newark direction. It came in like a spear. It just speared through the building like a fireball. You know, you can see the cut of the incision into the building is sideways, so the plane was slightly on its side, and that's why it made me think maybe it was in distress. But then when it obviously hit, there was almost no doubt that it was intentional. I dropped the phone, and my arms dropped to my side, and I just heard everybody in the office say, "Get out, get out." And then it was when I was heading down on 27, just about 27, didn't hear an explosion. All of a sudden, the staircase moved, and a crack in the wall appeared, maybe about 6 or 8 inches. I kept on looking at the numbers coming down the stairwell, 15, 14, counting, and then I actually thought, I can make it, I can make it. When I got out, I looked like I've never seen war up close, but today I have.
You know, I said, that's gonna go down like the first one. And it came down, and it was just this sound, this rumble, and this mass cloud coming at us. It's intense.
At that point, we decided just to get out of there. People were just going crazy at that point, evacuating.
Everybody goes straight. This ambulance is about 100 feet ahead.
Clear out of here now. Folks, we are evacuating this part of Manhattan. Get out of here now. Let's go, folks. Let's go. Let's go. Come on.
How are people getting off the island right now?
Right now, they're walking. A lot of people are getting up to the bridges, and they're walking over the 59th Street Bridge. They're walking over the Brooklyn Bridge.
Long Island Railroad, limited service. New Jersey, if you